a lot of us that are part of the Pan-Africanist community has to understand that not every black person feels African. Hi there, thank you so much for clicking on this video. If you're new here, hello, I'm Rhonda and this is Talks with Rhonda. On this channel, I talk about different topics such as African culture, African spirituality, African history, African societies, African religions, and sometimes I talk about politics too. I talk about feminism, the feminine divine, and other topics that I believe matter and need to be discussed. If you are interested in that kind of content, feel free to subscribe to my channel and join my little circle. As always, you're always welcome here. Now that is said, let's get into today's topic. Okay, what made me want to do this video was it was a few weeks ago actually. It was after I watched Coming to America, the second movie. I watched the trailer of it and I liked it. I liked it until one part. If you haven't watched the trailer yet, it will be in the charts up here. There was a part in the trailer that made me raise an eyebrow. You know what? Let me just show you.
Well, I be damn. Look who done come up in here.
Hey, escuta quinte, Ebola.
Famine and blood down.
Everybody is completely against Trump, including me, when he calls Corona the Chinese virus. So I don't understand why it will be okay or funny to, keep on assimilating Ebola to the African continent and just making it this African thing. Like every African person has something to do with Ebola. And I think that's just disrespectful and hurtful. So I already wanted to do this video when I watched that. But after watching that, what really prompted me, and I was like, okay, I definitely need to put my input into this, was the very popular Fufu challenge going on right now, more specifically on TikTok, but I've seen it on YouTube too. I've seen it on Instagram. So the Fufu challenge basically is a challenge where you see African Americans, or I would like to say Black Americans, because I feel like calling them African American implies that they understand, accept, and respect their African heritage. But some of Black people in the US really don't. So I don't see why we should call them African Americans. So yeah, it's a bunch of Black Americans tasting African food and spitting it out. But not all of them are doing that. I'm all about unity. I'm a Pan-Africanist. I believe that every person in the diaspora is African. But like some people are really, they just know how to work a nerve and be disrespectful. And I was really shocked by it. I was really annoyed by it. I was very angered by it, because we are in a space right now as Africans where we're trying to recreate our ways of thinking, recreate the way we view our culture. I don't know if everybody knows this, but Africans look to African Americans a lot. Seeing them on a screen tasting something that is ours, and it's completely ours, it's completely part of our culture. If I meet somebody and the person knows about fufu, or the person knows about a specific type of food, I can kind of know from where they are and what I have in common with them. It's a common identity that we have. It's a great part of our culture. So seeing African Americans who, as I was saying before, we look highly to, spitting out what is ours, what do you think that makes us think? This is our identity, right? But then other people who look like us hate it or despise it or say that it's gross and disgusting, and they just spit it out on camera and post those videos everywhere for everyone to see. It made me realize that personally, I've noticed that most Black Americans, again, I'm saying Black Americans and not African American, are disrespectful to African people. Maybe I shouldn't say most, maybe I should say a lot of. Yeah, I guess I would say a lot of. Let's face it, they do see us as less than them. They do see us as, the raw materials, like the rest of the world. I feel like they're not really different from white people in that sense, where like they see us as the raw materials that can be transformed to something else, but they are the evolved versions of the culture and of the Black men in general, or the Black human being in general. They don't feel connected to us in any way. It's like me, for example, half of my ancestors are British, but I don't care what the heck is going on. I don't even know what is going on in Britain. I don't know what is going on in the UK. I don't know what they're doing. I heard about Brexit, but I've never done any research into that. I don't care. I don't feel any connection towards the British culture whatsoever. So I think that a lot of us that are part of the Pan-Africanist community has to understand that not every Black person feels African or embraces our common roots. Some of them really just want to be seen as different from us or really be dissociated from us as much as possible. And then you also have those who pretend they care, you know, because they live in a capitalistic society, right? So with capitalism, you have to have the capital and you have to be able to profit out of it. So that means that you have to have something that stands out, something that's different. And when you're a Black person in the US and you don't want to, you know, just be part of the mass and just be like everybody else, when you want to stand out, what do? You look to your African heritage, you know, and you pretend to, you know, embrace that heritage, but that's just because you want to be noticed, you want to stand out. But then do I feel like people like Beyonce or Janet Jackson or whatever other Black American or African American that uses African culture in their work should be canceled or persecuted for it? No, not at all. That's not what I'm saying. Because that's simply not part of our culture and of our beliefs as African. As an African woman or child of Africa, I believe in sharing. We're not a capitalistic society where it's like everything is about making money, everything is about profiting off of and all that. So we don't mind, look, we're community based. So we don't mind sharing with our community and even people outside of our communities, which is why you would see that a lot of African people really appreciate when people represent them or when people embrace their cultures. That is whether or not they're Black or not. Even white people are welcome, which I feel like played a big part in how we got colonized and stuff. But that is a whole other topic. So yeah, capitalism is not our concept. We inherited it from colonization. We recognize the sons and daughters of the land, whether they have been away for a long time or not. We would embrace them and let them, you know, enjoy the fruits of what our common ancestors built. That is as long as they respect those ancestors and recognize those ancestors who gave them the right to those lands in the first place. And how do you respect ancestors? You respect the culture, because our culture comes from them. It stems from them. So yeah, we're not going to go around chasing, you know, artists and musicians who are using African, because that would be chasing everybody, literally chasing everybody. Because music is from Africa. If you don't know that yet, where have you been? Everybody knows that music is an African invention. So is a lot of other things. But then there's a line not to be crossed. Like I've said, I don't know how many times I've mentioned respect in this video, but I'm going to say it again. You have to be respectful, okay? So I hear a lot of people saying that African Americans cannot appropriate African culture because it is their own culture as well. But let's be honest here. Let's be truthful here, okay? There is a difference between African culture and African American culture. There is an undeniable difference between those two cultures. Like, I went to school with a lot of Americans, and there are a lot of things that they will talk about that I will have no idea what the heck they're talking about. And vice versa, you know, there's some things that I would say or some things that I can share with another person that grew up in Africa that an American person would not understand at all, because we have different cultures. We stem from the same culture, we stem from the same roots, but today we don't have the same culture. So appropriation can still happen. How would appropriation happen in this context? As in, how would African Americans appropriate African culture? Let's say, for example, that African Americans start saying that the Kente is from Louisiana. You know, the Kente Prince. They start saying that it's from Louisiana, but we all know that that is not true. The Kente Prince are from the Akan people of Ghana and of Ivory Coast, and also some other people in Togo. But then the African Americans appropriate it completely, and bear in mind they do not identify as, you know, part of African culture as much. And so yeah, they start saying that Kente is from Louisiana, and everybody credits Louisiana for the creation of Kente without ever acknowledging that the roots of Kente actually is from Ghana. And going forwards in, you know, let's say every book or every resource, you see that Kente is from Louisiana. That is cultural appropriation. and it has certainly happened before. I can't think of any examples from the top of my head, but if you do understand what I'm trying to say and you have an example of that, please feel free to leave a comment down below. So yeah, disrespect comes in different forms. It can be appropriation, but it can also be silence. For example, Beyonce, as much as I loved Black is King, I've watched it with my whole family. I posted it like everywhere. I was really excited for it. I loved Black is King. I was really disappointed by the fact that she stayed silent when SARS was happening. It was really disappointing to me because this is the very culture, this is the very people's whose culture you've used in your project, and you used to sell this image of unity and this image of, yeah, we're all the same people and we're here for each other, we have to go back to our roots and all that. Just to stay silent in a moment like this, people were saying things like, oh, well, Beyonce is an entertainer, she's not a hero, blah blah blah. But when Black Lives Matter happened, when like the movement started, when it became like a big thing, I think it was like in 2015, she was one of like the first celebrities to actually speak up on it at that specific moment. And nobody was like, oh, why is she not, why is she acting like she's going to save? We're not asking her to save nobody. We're just asking her to acknowledge what is going on and not stay silent while the people whose culture she's using to profit out of are literally dying. And it shouldn't even feel like the people, it's her people at this point, because that's what she made clear in Black is King, that we are all one people, right? So why would you stay silent when it comes to something like this? And also there were some people that were talking about how, oh, she's already doing some things behind the scenes and whatever. The whole SARS movement is online. How can you participate in the movement if you don't make any statement online, especially with the type of platform that you have? So yeah, there are different ways in which you can see the disrespect that African Americans consistently so often show to, the African people. When it comes to culture and when it comes to standing out, you see them show up and like be like, oh yeah, we're part of this too, we want a part in this too. Okay guys, so I've ranted enough. Let's get into the so what of this whole thing. What is the right thing to do? I think it is really important to give credit, and that is not even just when it comes to culture, just in general. You have to give people credit for their work. If you're using something African, make sure you're giving credit. Don't be Shakira. Don't be like you came up with it. No, girl, don't do that. Make the effort to not only find the country where what you're using is coming from, but also the specific tribe, or even if you can, the specific person that came up with that. And I think Beyonce did a good job at doing that with her Black is King project. She did say that it was specific, that a lot of what she was going to share was going to specifically be from the Yoruba culture, because it's somebody else's work, it's somebody else's sweat, it's somebody else's energy, literally energy. And when I say energy, I'm talking spiritually, and it's like you're taking from them without giving anything back to them, and that is not okay. That is imbalance. Also, don't be there for the good stuff and want to disappear when something bad is going on in that country. Like Stefflon Don, she is Jamaican, right? She's also in the diaspora, just like Beyonce or other people or other artists that are in the diaspora. She was one of the first celebrities that I've seen, celebrities that are non-Nigerian, that I've seen talk about SARS, right? And she had like her new song, Don't Let You Go. I think it's Don't Let You Go, that was out, and it's a Nigerian song. Let's just say it as it's a Nigerian song, and I love that song. Honestly, I love that song, and she has the right to that because she's also African. But like, she did not just put out that song, make money off of that song, and stay quiet when it came to the things that were actually happening in the country. And that is something that I really admire, Yeah, so just remember that we Africans are more than a trend, okay? We are greater than that. So have some respect for us. There's a lot of disrespect that I'm noticing that is going toward African people coming from African people. And that's just unacceptable. We're not going to let that happen, okay? So yeah, that's how I feel, and that's what I wanted to share with you guys today. I'm sorry if this video was kind of all over the place, and if my energy just wasn't all the way up as it usually is, but if you did like this video, thank you so much for watching it. If you're still here right now, leave a comment down below, tell me something, I don't know, or just leave an emoji or something like that. I'm really trying to get you guys to interact more on my channel. So yeah, like I said before, feel free to subscribe to my channel if you're not already subscribed. Like, comment, share if you care, and so keep feeling and flowing as always, and I'll see you next time on Talks with Rhonda.